When I get into healthy and energy mode, I tend to be a lot more healthy, and I buy stuff that I've never seen before that's healthy and I try it. So I bought this Beekeeper's Natural Bee Elixir. And it doesn't really say what's in it, but there was a pack of 10 and the pack said what was in it. But on their website it says, Bee Elixir Brain Fuel is a powerful nootropic, N-O-O, I don't know if it's nootropic or nootropic, but N-O-O-T-R-O-P-I-C formula containing natural compounds to help enhance memory, performance, and cognition. So it says benefits: memory and focus, adaptogen, concentration, fight brain fog, energy support, productivity hack, antioxidants. And it says, oh, interesting. Bee Elixir comes in the form of a shot to invigorate and nourish your brain and support your executive functions so that you can turn productivity up to the max. Our innovative natural formulation is ideal for high performers looking to optimize their moods, their minds. That's weird, I saw moods before, but maybe because it's close to superfoods on the next line. While supporting their bodies with plant-based adaptogens and superfoods. So the thing about it is, though, it was $5.35 for one. I think you can get 10 for $30. So I'm not going to have it now, but I'm going to have it after I shower, because I haven't showered yet. And I need to take my vitamins that I take with food. So I take a bunch when I wake up without food. The amino acids are good to take on an empty stomach. And then I have these that I'm going to take with food. And since I now have the home to myself, I made a smoothie, which I haven't done because I don't have a kitchen. So it took a bit of time to take stuff upstairs, like my blender, and set up a mini kitchen for the week. And I'm not used to doing this. I'm not used to taking time to make stuff for myself. I haven't really done it for 2 months. So it's interesting to get back into the gestures of that and notice how, even with the one smoothie, it just felt like a lot of effort to put in. It's a lot easier to jump in my car and just go get something and then be out all day. Wouldn't necessarily be more efficient if I had to drive and get food far away and then come back home, but since I've been staying out a lot, it is pretty practical, I think. But the thing is that I haven't been making the healthiest choices, so this week I'm going to do a week of making my own healthy food. It'll save a bit of money. I'm drinking yerba mate, which I love, and I won't be buying Tim Hortons coffee this week. So focusing again on health and noticing how when I have a full space to myself with everything, like a kitchen and everything, and if I had a kitchen set up with all my stuff, I would be doing a lot more gestures towards health. But the thing that I'm grateful for with having to be out and about and eating food around is that a lot of times I'll grab food with a friend, or I've spent a lot of time in my friend's coffee shop. I've just spent a lot more time with people and friends. So less focus on, oh my gosh, I gotta be healthy. A few years ago, I was being super healthy, and I'd probably be like, no, I can't hang out because I need to stay home and make myself this healthy food. So I think I've released the attachment to needing healthy food all the time, and having the benefit of the energy of positive connections with friends. A lot of times I'll go grab food and then meet up with a friend, and even if they're cooking. So yeah, it's made me a lot more social, and having a really fuel efficient car has made me a lot more social because a lot of my friends live like 40 minutes to an hour away. So yeah, that's been really interesting. So now I would probably be like, I'd rather go and hang out with my friend than stay here and be healthy. So yeah, of course I've still been doing the vitamin thing every day. I take my vitamins and then I leave. I pack up the ones I need to take at dinner time. Then I come back and I take the nighttime ones. And I'm down to same sort of thing, quarter Zopicone, which I'll take for 4 more days because I had one pill left from the really old batch. And then I have the trazodone and the quetiapine. I'm going to reduce the quetiapine by 1/4 of a pill at a time and try to reduce it. I'm going to try the CBD transdermal cream tonight. So I'm always experimenting with different things. And this has been an experiment the last couple of months of not being attached to my stuff, just having my backpack and grabbing it and leaving. And that was sort of an experiment of being home less. I was definitely home less. And I think it was really good. I learned a lot that I didn't know I would learn. And now being healthy for a week and then having a month of working more and getting ready to go. This week, since I have the house to myself, I'm going to try to talk to myself more because right now I have my door open. I can talk as loud as I want. And that's easier. Before I would usually talk after 9 o'clock when nobody's awake because this house is very echoey. So I'm going to focus more on that. I'm not going to do as much in terms of planning for my trip. I know that I need to get health insurance. I'll probably go with BCAA because last time they sold a policy that if I came back after 3 months, I could get a refund. It's about $100 a month-ish. And it doesn't cover mental health, of course, but it covers everything else, like health stuff for the most part. And so if I decide, I can't be down there for, like I could decide to come back after 3 months, then I could get $300 back. I'm going to check out my American Express coverage and also my car insurance company coverage. I say I'm going to talk to myself a lot, but if my voice gives out, I definitely won't. And then I'm going to use my Roam Mobility SIM card for a few days, and when I get down there, I'm going to try and get a full-on American SIM card because my critique of Roam Mobility is it seems to want to upload my pictures into the cloud over the SIM card data. So with the SIM card I have now, it only uploads my videos and pictures when I'm in a Wi-Fi zone. But when I'm down there, it tries to upload it over the SIM card, which takes hours and hours, but then it wastes all the data, and then the data is throttled after 2 gigabytes in a month. So it just becomes useless because once it's throttled, it barely works. So learn my lesson from last time. I'm going to try to get a full-on SIM card. My iPhone is unlocked. And also, what else is there for travel? I don't know why I'm talking about it, but also checking which border crossing's the best. One of them near me isn't 24 hours, another one is. Check the leaving time. Try to decide where I might want to stop. See if a friend knows anyone along the way so I can spend the night with a friend's friend, maybe. And notifying my credit cards through the online portal that I'll be away. And, of course, packing everything in my meds and stuff. But I'm going to do all those investigations next week because I can do that. And that leaves me room to do stuff that is the best for being around the house by myself, like singing and things like that. So yeah, there's lots of options, and I should drink this. And yeah, and then next week I might wash my old car and try to sell it. I could do that this week, and I might because it's raining, so I can wash it with the rainwater maybe. But yeah, so just trying to get different things done. I have notebooks of stuff to talk about with myself. And there's somewhere I wanted to go with something I said, but I forget. And that's what's happening lately is I think I'm becoming even more forgetful, which is okay. And yeah, eat my vitamins. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say, I think, was that I've done a lot of this meaning making. I've talked about this before with myself, I know that, because I've done a lot of meaning making. And do I want to continue to write things down and talk about them? Or do I want to start living in a way that is meaningful to me? Which I'm going to do by going to California, but even after that, what is meaningful? And another step would be to start making meaning with other people. And I do have a lot of peers that I know that have very amazing talents that I think if we got together, we could share skills and create something cool. Or even, what I could maybe do next is help people set up their own channel, or have a channel for peers to share their skills. Like I know somebody who wants to teach painting or share what they get out of painting for people, for peers. And one could try to set up a class for that person to teach painting locally, or one could set it up online, so it's digital and scalable. And this is the stuff that Steve Pavlina talks about. And or it could be an online thing, so that person is able to share that meaning on a bigger scale if they want to. And so it also could be a process of showing other peers how to set this up for other people. So say I'm the one that shows somebody, hey, like let's have a channel where people share their passions who are peers in our community. And then that would show the way for other people to do the same in other communities, to allow people to share what their talents are, what is meaningful, and what they're passionate about. Because maybe not everyone is I don't know why I'm stumbling so much. Maybe not everyone is passionate about creating memes or whatever. I don't know if I like the term memes. And then the other thing is certain things give me energy, like being around beautiful women and having close friendships, and also nature. And there's a lot of things that I would like an abundance of. I don't want to necessarily be sitting here like this forever. And perhaps consulting with people and making meaning with people instead of by myself. And then also showing people how to make meaning for themselves. And that was the point that I don't know if I made yesterday that I wanted to make, was we can do this for ourselves. And maybe I could share a very simple thing to get people into that mode of creating meaning for themselves. And not just creating meaning for oneself, but also moving towards what's meaningful for people in their life. So I've managed to do that by going to California. And what's beyond that, I don't know. So I think one thing I wanted to talk about regarding this bee elixir stuff is that it says it helps with your executive functions. I think, and I was writing this down even before I looked at this, I think, maybe not, but what is executive function? Memory and focus, blah, blah, blah. I'm feeling like memory isn't that important. Accumulating knowledge isn't that important. Focus and concentration isn't that important. So I feel the executive functions of somebody who's gone through altered states or extreme states of consciousness could be different, or they could vacillate back and forth. Like there's different functions of the brain in the altered state versus the consensus state. And I want to talk more about that. So I don't know if I want this to help my memory and focus. I don't really want to help my memory. So we'll see. I'll take it anyway after I have my smoothie and eat these vitamins and have a shower and see what happens. I don't think it'll be really anything that noticeable unless I can't sleep tonight for some reason. So yeah, I think I'm fumbling a little because I have so much to talk about. And the limiting step probably will be my iPhone memory. It'll take time for the videos to go into the cloud. So I could manually remove them and save them in the cloud manually. There is a way to get around that if I choose to. So yeah, like I said, lots of things to talk about, lots to do. And I'm gonna drink my smoothie and have a shower and then get into it. And through talking, I might try this time to get a few of the bigger themes. And like I would love to be able to create some kind of something that is more digestible, because this is a bunch of content. And yeah. I'm going to try this bee elixir thing now. Cute little bottle though. That's nasty. It says what is in it is royal jelly, bacopa, moneri plant extract. I already take bacopa. And ginkgo biloba, non-GMO vegetable glycerin, and purified water. So I thought of my next big experiment. Yeah, what's that? Well, I'm thinking that for my next experiment, I'm going to have a crisis while in California. Why would you want to do that? Well, I'm going to be in California, and it seems that the crisis time that I get every 7.5 to 8 months is going to happen when I'm in California. It should happen very late December or maybe early January, maybe late January, I don't know. But what I'm feeling is that I'm not really afraid if that happens. It's not really gonna... Oh, sorry, I thought you were a leopard. No, that's just my headband. You can't see very well. That's why you're a dinosaur. You see in a very limited fashion. Well, that's not very nice. Well, it's kind of the truth. Hey, Flat Affect Freddy, how are you? I know you can't really speak right now because you have flat affect, but I'm wanting to talk to you about something. Is that okay? I'm a peer, don't worry. I'm not a psychiatrist. Hey! I already talked to you, dino-chiatrist. Well, what I want to talk to you about is how I've been talking to myself for a really long time, a couple of years now, over 2 years, and I've discovered some things that I think might be able to support you to live your dreams and live a vibrant life instead of this flat affect thing you got going on right now. Do you think you'd like to hear about some of it? Okay. Well, it's only about probably 260 hours long right now. What? That's not that long. You could watch it all in like 10 days, or if you never slept. But if you sleep, then you can watch it all in like 20 days, or an hour a day for many, many days. Does that sound like a good idea to you? Why not? Too long, right. It is too long, you're right. I need to somehow figure out how to summarize some of these bigger themes and ideas. Do you want to help me? Do you want to help me? Why not? Oh, it's the flat affect, that's right. So I need to help you. But the thing is, I don't think you need help. I think that all the power and capacity and capability is within you. Why do you just keep staring at me so blankly? Oh, you don't believe what I'm saying? You don't believe you have capacity and capability and talent and power and the ability to move towards your dreams? Well, why not? Oh, you're afraid to say. Well, you can whisper it in my ear. You mean Dr. Dinochiatrist told you that you're going to have to take these meds forever, and you're going to have more crises over time, and you're going to get, your brain's going to get shrunken, and if you have more crisis, if you go off your meds, your brain's going to get worse and worse over time. It's going to get worse and worse over time. Well, I can tell you that that is not a true reality, because I've had this condition for, well, I don't want to say it's this condition, but I was labeled 7 years ago with bipolar, and my brain's just fine. I think I'm actually getting a lot more capacity over time. It's taking a while, yes, but it makes sense because it took me 29 years to get like I was, that led to the crisis. So it might take some time to get to a different type of ability and capacity that maybe was lying dormant because I was conditioned in a certain way in my upbringing. What? Does that sound kind of familiar to you? Like, does it resonate? Would you like to see and know that you do have a lot of intelligence and capacity? Do you think some of your experiences in altered states of consciousness and extreme states of consciousness, do you think they could have some meaning? Do they feel like they were meaningful events and experiences and states of consciousness and things like that? Whoa, that's a big yes. You really think they are meaningful. Well, why haven't you told anyone? You mean Dr. Dinochiatrist only checks off symptoms on a checklist when you say what you experienced? Well, I can tell you that he is interpreting you with the psychiatric lens. Like, he studied a long time, for many, many years, to get these types of thoughts and interpretations in his mind to project onto people like you and I, to make us believe, especially due to their position as some kind of authority, health authority. It gets us to believe pretty quickly in what they say. They told me after I was hospitalized for a few days that I had bipolar disorder and I'd have to take medications for the rest of my life. And I was thinking, whoa, that was a really spiritual feeling experience. Did your experience feel spiritual? In what way? Oh, you're still afraid to say it out loud. Well, I don't blame you, because oftentimes when we say things out loud, we get pathologized for them. So I don't blame you, but I'm a peer. I've been through similar things, similar dimensions. Of course, different details. We have different bodies, so we have different experiences, but I think it's possible that there's some kind of intelligence to this process, and there's something that we can learn. And if we learn, then it's possible that these types of experiences won't be so intense, and we'll be able to have experiences and maybe not feel it so intensely because of how we've integrated a lot of it and made meaning out of a lot of it. Like, this is what my process has been for the last couple of years, is making a lot of meaning out of these processes. And I've made all sorts of strange, I don't want to call them pseudo-scientific approaches, but maybe I'll call it meta-scientific. I've created my own scientific process in a way. And if you don't like science, that's okay, because you can use the same sort of thing towards anything that you want to live and create. How does that sound? Great. Thanks a lot for being so brave and courageous, like a lion. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say the word lion. I know they might eat you or something, but you're perfectly safe here. There's only a dinosaur. Well, dinosaurs are scary too, especially when it's a Dr. Dino-chiatrist, isn't it? That's more scary than a dinosaur, isn't it? Yeah. So, we can talk more later. Okay, but seriously, this is the next big part of my experiment. I saw in my calendar that I have it scheduled in that the next crisis I'll experience will be end of December, probably. I usually put in my calendar on the earlier side of it, so that way I can be warned. And then if it happens later, then that works out. Last time I got into a little bit of trouble because I think it started before I left for the island, and it was really challenging to get there. I thought I might not get there, but I did, and then I felt a lot better. So I'm wondering if when I'm in California, if a crisis will happen at all. Maybe it won't happen at all. And I don't want to think in terms of prevention, but it could be that in a really good environment, something like that doesn't happen, because I've seen the stresses and the pressures that I've felt in being in an environment around people who don't see things the way I do. For example, the first 3 years I was living with peers for the first 2 years of my experience, and being around people who understand made it a lot less stressful, and it made it a lot easier to start rebuilding my life. So I realized today that I'm not afraid of having a crisis in California, whereas last year when I went, I was afraid of that. I had a medical ID banned. I had plans for 2 different friends to come down and get me if there was a problem. I'm not going to wear the medical ID band this time, and I might try and have one person who would be willing to come down and get me if I was really having trouble. But I'm not afraid of it, because even in June, I was only really non-functional for about 3 days. And maybe quite a few days after that, like maybe a week. And luckily I just bought a lot of food, so I had enough food. So I can order food through Amazon Prime or whatever. So I have that covered. I'm not even afraid of it at all. Whereas usually one wouldn't want to be in another country when a crisis was possible, because in the US, if I get hospitalized for mental health, there's no coverage. And I'm confident that I'll be able to be just fine. So that's sort of the longer term experiment in terms of living out my life and then seeing what happens in the different situations and circumstances. And the smaller experiments, of course, are starting to try this CBD oil transdermal cream, for example. That's a smaller experiment. And eating healthy for a week and talking to myself a lot for a week. That's a smaller experiment. So there's always different ones that come to mind, but like I mentioned today, I realized, hey, if crisis hits in December and I'm in California, big deal. It's probably a better place to have some trouble because I'm away from those who would project my history on me from their memory. And I'm kind of into this exploration of historical consciousness versus presence consciousness and perception of the moment, and how they sort of go back and forth as a bit of a model for what's happening. So yeah, I'm gonna try and stop in between ideas that I explore and insights, because that way I don't have to go through and edit, which I haven't been doing for a long time. I think it would be nice to go through and edit because I could be a little bit more creative and put in things here and there from extrapolating. Or yesterday I watched just a little bit of what I said and I ended up putting in a photo of when I had flat affect because I mentioned it, and I don't even look like the same person. And had I continued along that same path would have been taking that same medication, following doctor's orders. Yeah, it wouldn't have been good. I would still probably look like a zombie. So yeah, that didn't happen because I'm learning, and I think getting rid of the fear is really important, and I don't know how many of us manage to do that. And that's what I would like to show in some way. So here's an idea. Let's create a festival for people to go and be manic. And if someone's not manic but they've been manic, they can go, because if other people are in that heightened energy state, it will probably pass it along to those who have already been invited into that state by the universe. They already have the possible brain pathways and neural pathways for that. It's a matter of being sparked. A while ago, my brain twin was feeling kind of down and like there was nothing to do or learn, and I was sending him inspirational emails with different things, and he did get a bit of a spark from it. So that would be another thing. Instead of trying to get rid of mania, it would be people who have fallen out of it. The people who are in it could spark the ones who have fallen out of it, and also help to teach each other how to be with that energy. So then if we get sparked, then we're creating more of the brain cells for embodying that. So that would be a thing where that energy can spark the subjectivity, the meaningfulness of it. But how do we translate that meaningfulness, that feeling of rich meaning inside, to something that is embodied, that maybe we can share by virtue of our presence instead of having to make so many words about it? I don't know. And think about this question that Krishnamurti asked. He said, is it possible for human beings to bring about a totally different category or dimension of the mind? So he's not saying, oh, this dimension will just be there. He's saying that humanity has a part to play in bringing this about. And I feel like in so-called mania, we get connected with that, but then we need to learn how to bring it about. or make it embodied. I had an insight recently about how psych medications work a little bit, and this will be challenging to unfold. It doesn't necessarily make sense if one has not explored thought in the way that, say, Eckhart Tolle does, or Krishnamurti, for example. So Eckhart Tolle would say, move towards not thinking at all. And I was fortunate that I did a lot of Power of Now practicing before I was ever diagnosed. So I feel that it's true that when a person takes a psych med, part of what's happening, and I'm not pretending to be a psychiatrist here, I'm extrapolating from my lived experience. Part of what's happening is the medication is working on thought. So if I'm terrified in psychosis, it's thinking that's making me feel terrified, and the feeling of being terrified, which is in a feedback loop with the feeling of being afraid, and they're feeding off each other, making me more and more afraid. And if I take a psych med or a tranquilizer, all of a sudden those thoughts aren't really there as much, or the energy of the emotion of fear isn't there as much, so it loses its feedback loop capacity to keep adding and adding to it. So if one works on not believing thoughts, or not having the algorithm of belief in mind at all, then thoughts are just sort of flying by here and there, but they're not given any power. And I feel part of what causes side effects is thoughts that maybe we aren't aware of. So I've worked a lot to have my mind not really think verbally, not have that chatter going on. And I think that if we take a psych med to stop the chatter in our mind, that chatter still goes on somewhere, like in the body processes, and that is what can lead to different side effects in the body. But if we work on no thinking at all, then I feel that's something that could possibly lead to not having so many side effects. And it's also true, someone can take a psych med and certain thoughts get worse, or certain beliefs get worse, or certain things get worse. And a lot of those, if you think of fundamentally what it is, it's thought stuff, which is a conglomerate of thought stuff would lead to probably an emotional complex of some kind in the body. So I feel it's possible to work to lower that, and then that way, I don't think the medications are material, they're matter, they're chemical, and thoughts are sort of like, Krishnamurti would say, they're a mechanical process in the brain. So thoughts are based on the fact that our brain cells are conditioned like a reflex to think these things. So the meds are in a way working on these thought reflexes tied through our brain and body. And so something like insight and intelligence and understanding in the moment, something new, isn't affected by that, isn't affected by medication so much, especially when one decouples their brain and being and biology from thought stuff. So what I'm trying to say is it's possible to get more benefit out of the medication and less side effects by getting rid of these thought things. And for me, what I'm experiencing now is that I'm taking medications that are helping me sleep. I take them at night only, and I'm not really getting any side effects from them because I feel like I've worked to decouple from a lot of those thought stuffs that would create some of the side effects. If I had one of those medication profile sheets, I would look at some of the side effects and then try to relate it to what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to say too is a lot of what I'm talking about is perception of the moment. And perception of the moment requires that our senses and our perception be clear of thought and experience, because otherwise it's translated according to old experience and old thought in memory. And what's in memory is probably in our brain cells, and it's a reflex of memory. So if we don't have the reflex of memory happening, which is the material process, we can see something new. And maybe it's okay to have the reflex of memory operating a little bit, like we have to remember English, for example. And that maybe is what happens when people go into catatonic states at some point, is they forget English temporarily because their memory is not moving in the same way. And the world that's not part of memory is a world of light. In terms of what David Bohm says, he said there's soma, which is matter, or more gross, and significance, which is subtle. So significance could be something like meaning, and then one could take meaning and translate it into something of soma, of matter. Like if one sees something that means a certain thing scientifically, one could make like a TV set, for example, and then they keep updating them as they see more understanding of that. So why I'm saying the meds possibly don't affect that so much, or they don't have to, is because it's based on perception of the moment, which is based more on light, the light coming in and what we see, versus the mechanical movement of memory. So it's quite complicated, and the things I have to talk about now are not necessarily in a logical order. I'm just going to talk about different things and build more of that. And next is talking about learning how to navigate this energy for ourselves. So asking for help is relying on somebody else's authority to tell you what's going on. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we have these inner subjective experiences that are not shared with other people, we can make meaning for ourselves. And if we say something and then it's translated as a symptom, we get reattached to the machinery of psychiatry, meaning the treadmill of going to the psych ward and then going out in the community and then back to the psych ward. So why do we ask for help? Mainly because we're afraid. And why are we afraid? Maybe because we don't understand. And one can say, oh, well, I'll tell you how to understand. You have bipolar disorder. That doesn't help me be less afraid, though. That's somebody else's understanding that they've gone to school for who knows how long, 5, 10 years? Going to school for 5 to 10 years for that person as a psychiatrist to say, hey, you have bipolar disorder. And all I'm going to tell you is it means this, this, and this, and this. Like the symptoms you're saying to me, you mean you have bipolar disorder. But the rich subjectivity that I experienced, for example, in my first 2 months in altered and extreme states before I was hospitalized, it had so much meaning every second. I kind of want to find, I have an audio somewhere of me babbling kind of somewhat unintelligibly. At least if someone was to listen to it, they'd be like, what is she talking about? But if I listened to it, I'd probably have a sense of what my inner process was at the moment, and it would be something beyond the words I was saying. But words come out linearly. So for some reason I drew this little pendulum. I can't really remember, but in terms of learning, so reattaching. So we go into an altered state and then we reattach to, say, our family and psychiatry, and they explain it for us. And it kind of goes back and forth like this. But what if it were a circle? Like each time it's a circle completing itself, and it's a spiral, moving, moving, moving. like it's three-dimensional coming out of the page. So instead of going back and forth between that fearful state and then whatever, it could be a circle, and each time we complete the circle, we've navigated for ourselves. So that's what I find most empowering, is learning to navigate for myself. And creating a lot of meaning for myself has reduced the fear. And then also learning how to take certain supplements, which may be helping. I think they are, because I have definitely had a more tame experience, especially considering my environment isn't exactly as I would create it myself. And